Coming up, it's the Hawaii Show. Coming up next, from the Bob Varley Studio in Orlando, Florida, this is the DIS Unplugged. This is the DIS Unplugged, episode 732 for the week of August 19th, 2014. The DIS Unplugged is brought to you by Dreams Unlimited Travel, experts at helping you plan the perfect Hawaii vacation. Visit them on the web at www.dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show I have been anxious to do now for a while. So I'm glad we're finally getting able to do it. I'm your host, Pete Werner, joined at the table this week by my good friends, John Magi, Kevin Close, Dreams Unlimited's Tracy Heinrichs, Ben from the podcast, and back in the Nook, our producer, Dustin West, along with associate producers, Craig Williams and Sean Thompson. Come on.
Oh, she gave us a weird look.
Oh. She's always giving you weird looks.
That's her normal face.
Cool.
This is why I work from home.
We don't let you out in front of people.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me just give everybody a little rundown about how this show is going to go. We've got a lot to cover. I went back and forth as to whether or not there should be multiple shows because there is so much we have to talk about. So we are... basically, the whole idea behind this, it was kind of spawned from my last two visits to Aulani, which I don't think I've been shy about saying is my favorite Disney resort. I think, quite frankly, it's the best Disney resort in the world, and I can back that up with facts. But beyond that, I would go out to Aulani and see things around Oahu, and it was a lot of fun and beautiful, but I always felt like I was missing something. What do the other islands look like? Because no matter who you talk to, every time you say to somebody, oh, I was just in Hawaii. Oh, where did you go? Oh, I spent the time on Oahu. Oh, no, you should have gone to Maui. Oh, no, the Big Island is my favorite. Oh, no, you should have gone here, should have gone there. So I'm like, okay, because like my brother's been out to Hawaii a few times. He loves Maui, and he loves the Big Island. I talk to other people who say the same thing. So I'm like, okay, I would really like to check it out. But the thought of packing up and flying from island to island, hotel to hotel, just does not appeal to me. Last year we did our Beyond the Park segment where we started out in Hawaii. We were in Hawaii for a week. We were in Alaska for a week, and we were in California for a week. And that was exhausting, even when I had a week to spend in each place. But I wanted to do, a 2-week trip is about what I felt was right. Some pre-nights, some post-nights, and then a cruise in the middle. And I chose the cruise because the hotel kind of travels with you. And on this itinerary, you get to overnight in a couple of ports, which is really unusual for any of the cruises I've been on anyway. So I thought this would be an interesting way to see the islands, kind of get the whole experience, get my Aulani fix in, and see the rest of the islands at the same time. But I wanted to see, before I started talking about it and pushing it, I wanted to see what this Norwegian cruise on Pride of America was going to be like. So I had to do it myself first. It's what I do for you. The lovely people out there in the dark.
Okay, Norma, move on.
This is what I do. And it was Dustin and I and Tracy and her husband, Chris, along with Ben from the podcast. And every time I do, that's right. Every time I do Ben from the podcast.
Face.
I need to.
Every time we do Ben from the podcast, we have to cut to Ben from the podcast. There you go. Very good. We're going to start off. I want to talk a little bit about Aulani and some of the changes that have come to Aulani. As I said, in my opinion, perfect Disney resort. But there were some things that needed to change at Aulani, mainly because when they built the resort, they did not expect people to spend as much time there as they were. They thought people would spend some time at the resort, but mostly go traveling around the island. And it turns out that people got there and didn't want to leave. And if you ever go to Aulani, You will understand why. If you've been to Aulani, you already understand why. This is not a place you necessarily want to leave, but you should. You should travel around. We're going to talk about that too. But one of my biggest complaint about Aulani was that there was no quick service location really to get food, and everything required a reservation. We would go to have breakfast, and the restaurant would be empty. Do you have a reservation? No. Well, we have no room. There's nobody in your damn restaurant. What do you mean you have no room? A lot of times we found ourselves walking across the street to the ABC store, which is right across from Aulani, to get sandwiches and snacks and things like that. Well, part of what Disney did in the most recent rehab was they added a quick service location. And why is the
Ulu Cafe?
Ulu Cafe, thank you. I was thinking Uma, as like an Uma Thurman. The Ulu Cafe. And
Wish it was that.
This is basically, I can't call it a typical Disney quick service location because the food is amazing. That's how the food was so good that I'm saying, okay, why can you do this out here, but you can't do this back in Orlando? I don't understand it. Do you not talk to each other? Or is there just not the desire to do it? It's got grab-and-go sandwiches, pastries. In the morning, it's got a little breakfast buffet. You can help yourself. And, this is also a refill station for your sodas and your coffees.
For comparison, we were just talking on the last episode about Captain Cook's. Now, it doesn't offer as many hot off-the-grill selections as Captain Cook's does, but the space itself reminds me a lot of Captain Cook's in the way it's laid out.
Right.
The grab-and-go, the cook-to-order stuff, like you said, for breakfast, eggs, sausage, bacon, stuff like that. For lunch, I actually didn't have lunch there, but they have selections there as well. But it's a great quick service place to go to if you're looking for that.
Well, I was amazed by the quality of the food. I had for lunch one day. I am still talking about this. Is how good it was. This curry chicken salad on a croissant. I was like out of my mind. It was so good. It was fresh. It was delicious. That croissant tasted like it had just been baked that morning. And everything that we had there was really good. My only complaint is that there used to be the soda refill station in the store that was in the main building. It's not there anymore.
That bothers me.
You now, to refill your refillable mug, you have to walk the 6.5 miles over to Ulu.
Or you can go to the store that's by the pool under the volcano.
Right,
still,
where they sell
you're
the suntan
still-
stuff.
You have
you're
to
still
leave
away.
the main
You
building.
have to leave the main building,
Yeah.
which is kind of a pain if it's raining.
And one of those is open 24 hours. I don't remember which one. So that's a good thing. But
Yeah.
again, who at 2 o'clock in the morning wants to go
It's
down
the one
there?
by the pool because it's located outside of the store.
Well, I think the one in Ulu's outside the store,
Oh, that's
too.
correct.
Yeah.
This is also where you get your coffee, which, again, in terms of resort coffee, best there is. This coffee was phenomenal.
Yeah.
And it's a blend, and I understand that it's one of the next ones coming out from Joffrey's is going to be the Kona blend from Aulani.
Amazing.
So I'm really, really excited about that. They've also added, they call it a quiet pool, but it's actually an adult pool. 18 and over only. Mm-hmm. Beautiful pool.
We spent most of our time there
yeah.
on the last trip.
Very quiet over
Quiet,
there.
not that many
And we were the
people.
only people in it.
Yeah.
There were 5 of us, and it was it.
Yeah, it was. Well, we actually rented a cabana. Mm-hmm. Why don't you talk a little bit about the cabana rental?
Yeah, and the cabanas I think there's 8 of them now. There used to be more, and they had to shuffle them around as they did some changing of the pool area. But the one that we had was in the Aulani.All pool area. And it was it's $325 for the day, which is pricey for a
Very
resort cabana, sorry. But what a way to spend the day. It
So
was nice. Like we booked it in advance, and I had booked it for a couple of days just because I wasn't sure about weather and stuff. I didn't want to get,
What do you get with it?
You get a fruit tray, and later on in the day they brought a dessert tray.
Well, they also put water in
They
the
put
fridge.
water in the refrigerator, and then they'll bring service if you wanted to order food or alcohol and stuff. We had somebody who would service it. It was not a cabana boy. I was a little disappointed, but we did have a girl who was a little chatty, but she did help us. And it also it has a TV in there. It has a safe. So that we really like the safe. The fact that we could go and enjoy the pool or the beach, and our stuff was locked up, so you could really go down to the pool for the day.
And if you're watching the show and you're looking at the photo that's up right now, you can see there's two chaise lounges outside, but it also had 2 lounge chairs and a sofa inside. You could seat 6 or 7 people in this thing.
Yeah, they officially take 6 people.
And I'm sorry, I'm so excited to do this show. I completely forgot that we have a video to show with each one of these.
We do.
That we have queued up. So before we talk any more about this, we have a video to show you of the changes at Aulani. And if you're listening and not watching, you can find these on our YouTube channel. And we'll have links to it in the show notes page as well, disunplugged.com. But here's a look at some of the changes that we saw at Aulani. That was an abrupt end.
Not sure why that happened.
That was not the full video? There was more?
There was one more shot that was supposed to be on there. I'll have to double check that.
Okay.
I apologize
That's
for that.
all right. That's all right. But we're sitting here watching that video, and we're all saying, I want to go back. But we were talking about the cabanas and the safe. Ben, you had something you wanted to add.
Well, all I really wanted to add was like how useful the safe was. I mean, you could bring your phone, you could bring your room key, you could bring everything.
Laptop, if we fit a laptop.
Yeah, I think you did end up bringing yours.
I did.
And I don't know, it's just nice to have your phone with you at the beach, everything else.
Or you can check your internet.
Yeah, I guess.
I will say this, the one thing we did was we just brought our room keys down.
Yeah.
And that was it. We decided everything else stays in the room. We're on vacation. We can have an afternoon off. And we even just kept our room key in our pocket.
So just a second. So I can have an afternoon off? Where
No, I said
don't have.
no.
Oh, I'm sorry. I misunderstood.
Owners-
I misunderstood.
owners of
Sorry,
James
sorry,
Unlimited.
misunderstood. See, so I needed a safe.
Exactly.
Actually, I'm glad I did have my phone at the pool because that's where I discovered my
Oh, yes.
air
we were
conditioning.
Sitting in the
was-
cabana as you were calling Delta.
Yeah.
Just to mention as well, if you're a high-tech guy like myself, behind the cabanas there's also electrical outlets, and you can dig your way through there and plug some things.
That's what we did.
I
Yeah.
don't think you're supposed to use those, Dustin.
But we did anyway.
Yeah, we
We
sent
didn't.
Dustin
I
through the
brought-
bushes.
That makes you high tech because you plugged stuff in.
I brought a power strip.
Then guess what? I'm high tech too.
Yeah. So, and they also had an iPod dock as well,
That's
and
right,
we
they
listened
did.
to some of Ben's slow jams. That was fun.
Yeah.
It was Ben singing.
Cribs.
Yeah. And then the second day, we had rented what's called the Ama verandas. They have upper verandas and lower verandas. They're on the other area below where Ama is, and they have the Casabellas set up. They're the double loungers with the awning type thing over them. They're usually $45. You can rent one of those down at the beach, and they'll seat 2 people. But we rented the veranda, and it had 2 of those Casabellas, and it was in an area where it was just us. So it cost us $90 for the day, and we knew all day long we had that area. It was a nice, easy walk down to the beach from there, because we kind of, as much as we like the cabana, we wanted to spend more time at the ocean, but there isn't anything near the beach in the way of a cabana. There's a lot of cabanas near the family pool area, which would be great if that's what you wanted. We did not. Luckily for us, Ben's 18 now, so we didn't have to hang out at the family pool area for that. There's also one of the Ama verandas has 3 casabellas in it, so it actually takes 6 people, and that would be $135 for the day.
Do they do service there too? Do
They do, yeah.
But
There was
there's no
service,
safe
but
and-
there's no safe, there's no drinks, there's nothing like that. But they do have service that'll come around and bring food and drink. The only thing we had a trouble over there was kind of reserving our spot. People just kind of, there was nothing to say that it was, except for a small little placard that said reserved. So people kept coming in and trying to sit in the empty ones. So we were left to police it. So that's one thing I had suggested to one of the recreation people, that, a simple chain here, because there is a walkway, a simple chain saying reserved would make it so your guests aren't policing your policies. But there's also an executive Ama veranda. And what it is, it's a couple of these casabellas, but it's also a couple lounge chairs, there's some tables. There they have a safe. It's a little bit cheaper than the cabana. It's $275 for the day.
That's still, for that, just go get the cabana.
And it's
Right.
closer to the beach.
Yeah,
so.
it is closer to the beach. So if your focus is to be at the beach for the day, then that would be an ideal.
Yeah.
And all of these prices that I'm mentioning, DVC members who are staying on points do get 10% off all the recreational rentals.
So, what else? What else am I missing with the changes at Aulani?
There's a new children's area called Keiki Cove, and it's kind of a splash zone. You saw it in the video if you were watching. It's got the little fountains like you would see at like Epcot or something like that. Little fountains come out the ground, and some lounge chairs there as well that parents can stay and watch their children. And that's right next to the Ulu Cafe. There's also a new pool bar that's added near the adult pool. So before you would have to go to the Off the Hook Lounge,
Right, which I love.
which is great anyway. That's on the off the side of the main like family pool, and now this is a much smaller pool bar that it wraps around. You could sit probably 10 or 12 people
And
at
also,
that bar.
the grab and go Ulu is right there
there.
by the
Yeah.
by the
By the
adult
adult-
pool.
yeah.
Yes.
The drink refill station is right there. It's a great place to
a great
spend
It
the day.
is, and
That's where we hung out when we were there.
Yeah.
it's just kind of makes Aulani perfect.
For me, it felt like it dispersed the crowds better too.
True. Yeah, I
that's
agree.
what I
First
found.
time
We
we
were
went.
the only people there. That was what was so cool about it. There was no one else around.
It was busy when we were there.
Very.
When we were there this past February, it was at capacity, and it was again this summer when we were there. And I just found with the new layout, it just didn't feel like we were all on top of each
Right.
other.
Yeah.
And I would say shout out to those people who have to do lounge chair duty. All the people who are saving chairs, and they've got to go around with their towels and keep track of who's saving chairs and kicking them out and taking their stuff. They're doing a great job. Those Aulani staff, they deserve a shout out for that, because they work hard at that, and really, really good.
I just want to mention with the changes, the new changes to Aulani, you now have, we've mentioned the adult pool, we've mentioned the original like volcano family pool. There's a new pool as well, the infinity pool.
That's
that
right.
is surrounded, it's an infinity looking out to the lagoon, and then there's kind of a cove that looks like coral, and then there's also a hot tub there. So this is a third pool in the mix. So you have 2 family pools and 1 adult pool, which is why we found the adult pool so sparsely populated.
Right.
It really wasn't that busy at all.
It was, and again, my recommendation to people, if you're going to do the trip that we did, is you need 2 weeks first of all to see Hawaii. Okay, if you're going to go. Take the 2 weeks. 2 or 3 days. I recommend closer to 3 or 4, but let's say 3 days pre, 3 or 4 days post, and a cruise in the middle. Dustin and I got out there earlier than Tracy did, and we actually stayed up at Turtle Beach. Turtle Bay Resort up on the North Shore, which for those of you who have seen the movie Forgetting Sarah Marshall are familiar with that. That's why I wanted to stay there. But we were in for a good week before the cruise, and I got to tell you, taking that time, to adjust to the jet lag from the East Coast, it's a 6-hour time difference, depending on whether or not we're on daylight savings time or not. and it was a 6-hour time difference. So kind of having that time to like relax, get acclimated to the time change and everything, and then get on the cruise relaxed.
Yeah.
That was incredible. But that also gave us an opportunity to really go and explore Oahu. And for as beautiful as Aulani is, I don't know how anybody could go out there and not see some of what is on this island. And we found some great stuff. We've got a little video we're going to play of some of the things around Oahu that we really enjoy, and then we're going to talk about that. So go ahead and play that. actually happen with that sunset too. Unreal. I just want to go back.
We're all sitting here going,
Come on, let's go back.
Let's go.
So I could spend 2 hours just on Oahu in terms of talking about what there is to see, but I kind of narrowed down my list to a few highlights, some of which are in that video. One thing that is not in the video that is a must-do on Oahu is Pearl Harbor.
We did that the morning of the cruise because Ben had first things when we said we're going to Hawaii. The first thing he said was, "Can we go to Pearl Harbor?" So the morning of the cruise, before we came to meet you guys to board, we went to Pearl Harbor.
Well, Ben, talk about your impressions of Pearl Harbor.
Powerful, definitely, especially when you get on the memorial on top of the ship there.
The Arizona.
Oh, I couldn't believe it. First of all, the ship, you see, it's right below the water, like close enough so it's almost coming out, and it's just a sunken ship, and
the bodies of a few thousand men are entombed there. That is a gravesite, a memorial and a gravesite. And before you can go over and do the Arizona Memorial, there's a 23-minute documentary that you sit through. And the reason I think that they make you sit through that, which I say sit through, it's a brilliantly done documentary, very powerful. But they don't want people going out there acting like it's a tourist attraction. They want people to be really in touch with what happened in this place, and that this is a place for respect. Now, when I was there a few years ago, there was a Japanese man spitting into the harbor from the memorial. And to tell you that I wanted to take him and throw him in it was the least of my first instincts. But most people are very respectful. They tell you no cell phones. They tell you don't be taking calls. Although I saw people there doing it, but it's a very powerful place. I don't care whether you remember the Second World War. Or in my case, my father fought in the Second World War. Whoever you are, there is something really powerful.
Oh yeah, I mean, the movie. I didn't even know it was 23 minutes. It just felt like you were inside of the documentary watching it. You got involved, and as soon as you went to the memorial, it made it so much more real. And I was just surprised seeing how many people were actually respectful of these rules. Because with that many people on this, you would expect a lot more rough housing.
Just people being inappropriate.
Yeah, exactly.
We just had dinner with some of our listeners, and they had children. And one of the things that stuck out to them was that the survivors of that attack have chosen that at the end of their lives to be interred there.
Right.
And they found that absolutely fascinating. They were looking at the dates the people died, and they realized that some were in the last year.
Right.
So it's not something that's just for adults. It's not something that's just for people who remember. There's something there to move everybody. So you can imagine if a 10-year-old kid is that moved by it.
That's what touched me the most. And there was the area where you could see where they actually do the service when they are burying somebody there. It's just, that was really touching. And it's just...
Something you should know is that they do offer pre-tickets. You can order your tickets in advance.
We tried
You have to do it several. I was going to talk about that.
Yeah.
You have to do it several months in advance if you want to do it online. Otherwise, you need to be there at 7 a.m.
Yeah.
The memorial opens, the Pearl Harbor installation opens at 7 a.m. They have about 2,000 tickets every day that are available, and they go within a matter of an hour. Now, that being said, there are tours that you can do that are independently owned tours that I guess what they do is they just go and they get in line for you and get these tickets because tickets are free. But these tours generally about $129 a person, and it will include a lot of different things around Pearl Harbor and also like a historic Honolulu City tour and things like that, things that you can do if you want. But these, by far, by and away, Pearl Harbor is the number one I will not call it an attraction, but it was number one tourist destination on the island of Oahu.
I want to jump back to the tickets for just a minute. You said go at 7 o'clock. Going at 7 o'clock doesn't necessarily mean you are going to tour at 7 a.m.
No.
The tickets are limited. I believe it's 30 or 40 people per group, and I think they run just about every half hour. So what happens is if you go at 7 o'clock, your tickets might not be good until noontime. It all depends. They hand them out in the order in which you get there, so you get your tickets depending on when you're there.
Right.
Did that make sense?
Yep.
Did I say it the right way?
You did.
The Pearl Harbor, the memorial, there's no charge for that.
The Arizona
There
is
are charges for other parts of the Pearl Harbor exhibit. If you want to tour other ships, if you want to see other things, there are things you have to pay for.
One piece of advice: you cannot bring bags of any kind. There is a locker. You can go and have stuff put in a locker.
A locker
Just
where you
don't
pay
bring-
where you pay them to watch your stuff. There are signs all over that they say they know people are going to be in the exhibit area for a while. Don't leave anything valuable in your car.
Okay, so Pearl Harbor, definitely number one on the list of things to see. Number two, you have to rent a car on Oahu.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
You have to rent a car.
Even if you're staying at Aulani, rent a car. The cost of that car rental, even with parking, even if you have to pay $35 a night to park at Aulani, I found for our family, we save money on our food budget
Absolutely.
by having a rental car.
Oh, yeah.
You need to pay to get from the airport to Aulani anyway.
Right.
And so by the time you get that car and pay to park it, the fact that we could go off-site and eat while we were at Aulani, we could go have dinner other places. There's a Costco nearby. We checked it out on our last day. They have prepared meals there. You could feed your family.
Well, that's good if you're a
reasonable.
DVC and you've got the
Yeah,
kitchen.
but even if
But-
exactly. But even if you only had the room, if you were picking up a prepared meal where you were coming back and
Or even a
having
case of
wrapped
soda
sandwiches and
and
stuff,
bottled water and stuff, right.
things like that.
Right. But beyond that, the reason to have a car is that you need to be able to explore the island, and this is the
Absolutely.
best way to do it. My best experiences on Oahu have come from hopping in a car, having no earthly idea where we were going, and just driving and discovering what we discovered. A lot of people like Waikiki is what a lot of people think of when they think of Oahu, Honolulu, and I understand that it's what we see in TV. It's what we see in movies, and I think you should definitely spend an afternoon walking around Waikiki. But that's about it. Waikiki is a concrete jungle. Same stores and things that you'll find pretty much in any high-end mall in the United States. There are a couple of exceptions. One of them is the Honolulu Cookie Company, which the next time you want to send a unique gift to someone, instead of sending flowers or chocolate, Honolulu Cookie Company. They're shortbread cookies, all different types and flavors. Absolutely amazing. I've got a tin of them sitting right there. They're delicious, and they've got retail locations all around the island.
Yeah.
I found them in Waikiki. Waikiki Beach is not what you see on television.
Right.
This is a thin strip of beach that's rather long, and it's crowded. And Waikiki is crowded. It's a good place to go have an experience, to say you've been there, but outside of that, I wouldn't stay there. I think the reason a lot of people do stay there is because you can get hotel rooms a little cheaper in Waikiki than you can in some of the other places. But beyond that, Waikiki's a nice afternoon. Also, watch the restaurants in Waikiki. Do your homework, because some of them are very good, but a lot of them are just crap. It's a big tourist area. They don't need to worry about repeat business, so they just kind of serve up whatever they feel like serving up. There was one place, it was in the Marriott, the Waikiki Marriott, called Arancino's, an Italian restaurant. It's rated the #1 Italian restaurant in Honolulu. They made my mushroom risotto in a massive block of Parmesan cheese. They melted the cheese with a torch.
Oh.
And then tossed the. Oh my God!
Oh.
Okay, amazing meal. But as you drive around the island, one place, my favorite place on Oahu. I'm sorry, favorite place on Oahu, the North Shore.
Absolutely.
If you want to really see Oahu away from the tourist area, the real Oahu that's not overdeveloped because they won't allow it. The residents won't allow it. There is one resort on the North Shore of Oahu, and it's Turtle Bay. And Turtle Bay is trying to expand, and they're not having it. I mean, the local residents are saying, no, you've gotten all you're going to get. They won't let them build anymore.
There's signs up
resorts.
everywhere driving around.
The signs you see all around are keep the country country, which is basically saying we don't want any more development here. And they are organized, they are funded, and they are effective because they are stopping it from happening. And when you go up there, you kind of understand why. Especially if you're into surfing. The North Shore of Hawaii is the premier place in the world. The number one beach for surfing is in the North Shore. And if you go in the winter, that's when those massive waves, there are times they have to stop people from surfing because the waves are 30 feet high.
Oh, my God.
If you can imagine a wall of water coming at you and trying to surf it, which I do all the time, as you can tell from looking at
That's
me.
where the killer walls come from.
Yes, the killer walls, yes.
Can I say one thing about getting a car on the island?
Mm-hmm.
People get intimidated about renting a car in different places and, am I going to find my way around? First of all, it's an island. Let's just, you can't really get lost.
You get to water, you turn around,
Exactly.
go the other way.
Your feet are wet, turn around. The other thing is, this is me being dumb. I was surprised at how Americanized it was.
Well, it's America.
Well, yeah, exactly. I got there and I thought, the sign's going to be written on cardboard, and there's going to be chickens in the road.
There were
a lot of chickens.
But it's
We'll
the
get to the
United States. It's all, there's super highways. It's very well signed. So just to give that to people who might be intimidated about driving someplace.
Yeah, and traffic is bad in Honolulu areas, in the Waikiki area especially. Traffic's bad.
Very bad.
But when you get around the North Shore and stuff,
I
it's a
think
very
people
easy drive.
think it's going to be exotic.
No, it's
like
not.
driving in Virginia. It's
Yep.
just there's an interstate in Hawaii.
The biggest difference is people actually stop and let you in. They'll wave you in as you're trying to turn and
Yeah,
stuff.
they're very polite,
Yeah.
polite drivers, and it is very easy. It's they're American roads, American signs, American laws. It's America.
There are potholes just like
It's
every
just
place else.
5 hours off the coast is all. That's the only difference. Very easy to drive around, but the North Shore, absolutely one of my favorite places. One of the places we discovered this trip was a place called Ted's Bakery. And you saw some of that in the video we just had just shown. It is this little nothing shack on the side of the road that, generally speaking, I would just drive by. I can't tell you how many times I've probably driven past it on my visits.
And that's on the North Shore.
This is on the North Shore. This is about 5 minutes away from Turtle Bay. And they are famous for their chocolate. Do you know how to pronounce that?
No.
Hopia pie.
Yeah, it's basically
delicious.
chocolate
It's a delicious pie.
coconut, isn't it? Chocolate coconut
But
pie.
this place is loaded with locals. Loaded with locals. This is locals in the area. They're there, and you see them. You see kids that were just coming off the beach. It's right across from Sunset Beach. The teriyaki beef sandwich. I would fly back just to go have lunch there. The pastries, the food, delicious. And this was a real find. And everybody's like, oh yeah, Ted's. You got to go check out Ted's. Check out Ted's. Also, one of the things that the North Shore is famous for are the shrimp trucks. Along the side of the road, you'll find these little stands that sell shrimp. And these are all, in the back of these buildings are shrimp farms where they're breeding the shrimp specifically to feed them to you. And people love this. I don't eat shrimp, and we didn't stop at one of these.
We did.
Yeah.
I didn't enjoy it.
No?
No.
I stopped at one too when we were in February. It wasn't a great experience.
But they're
for
very
me either.
popular.
They are absolutely. They're
popular.
crazy popular.
And that's part
I
of the
honestly think it's
problem.
more about me than them.
No, I think but that's part of the problem for us is that it was so crowded and so crazy, and you sort of fight
And
for
it was
a
very
table.
hot that day, and the smell of garlic was overwhelming. And I found out that the only way to wash my hands was there was a hose laying on the ground, and it wasn't my thing. But I waited in line 35 minutes to get something that I didn't
So
like.
it's other people's thing.
However, one of them is very famous for being featured in the show Lost in the first season, the character Sawyer has a very important scene.
And is that the one that has the graffiti all over the side of it?
I'm not sure.
That seemed to be the most popular one. That was the one everybody, I forget the name of
Well,
it.
if you're a fan of Lost, that's where they filmed. They filmed on Oahu. There's a lot of locations that you'll recognize, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. Is he a fan of Lost?
You know, he wants to tell you about something he saw on the shore.
So like,
Just pipe in. Just interrupt.
all right. So for most of our Hawaii trip, I was like looking for turtles because you think of Hawaii, you think of sea turtles, and there is a beautiful little.
I think of food, but
Well,
same
okay.
thing.
Second thing, sea turtles. There's a beautiful little beach on the North Shore. A lot of the time, it's actually the turtles come in to kind of rest there. And I forget what the organization's called, but what they do is they rope off around the turtles where you can't go inside, but you can still get up really close to these turtles.
You got some great pictures.
The turtles were absolutely beautiful, and I don't know, it was just
It was
fantastic.
just outside of Haleiwa. We found it by accident when we were there for FAM that year. We were just driving the North Shore, and we saw these cars parked. Oh, what are they looking at? And we found these sea turtles. So the whole trip he was talking about sea turtles. Apparently it's a spirit animal. Who knew?
Yeah. There you go.
So he says. And so he found these sea turtles, and we knew exactly where to take him to see the sea turtles.
And yeah, I've heard about it. We didn't get over there for it. Somebody was telling us about it, but it's right near Haleiwa.
It is.
Which is
Yeah.
next on my list of places you have to stop when you're traveling around the island. The North Shore town of Haleiwa, and in particular, Matsumoto Shave Ice, which, I thought, maybe it's a little overrated. Let me try Shave Ice in a few other places. No, Matsumoto's is the best. I don't know what it is. And as opposed to like a snow cone, which is like crushed ice, this is literally a massive block of ice that is shaved, and they add flavor to it. They'll put, Sean has had his last year with condensed milk on it. They'll put all sorts of stuff on it.
Is that good? 'Cause
Yeah.
it looks weird.
It looks really good. I got the tropical fruit one. It was like papaya and stuff, and then I just added like a creamier, less sweet flavor to it. It was good.
And Matsumoto's also really unique T-shirts, stuff you're not going to find anywhere else on the island. So as a place to go and grab some really cool souvenirs for somebody or for yourself that you're just not going to find everywhere, because there's you see a lot of that in Hawaii, the same souvenirs, the same stuff. And these are really, really cool shirts, really nicely designed.
And spend the 25 cents to get the little plastic cup that they put under your shaved ice.
Yes, I
Yeah.
agree. Because it goes all over the place.
I'm actually not a huge fan of shaved ice, which, I don't know. I just never liked the flavor of it. I couldn't get past how a lot of the time it was just half water. But I gotta say, Matsumoto's, unbelievably good.
Wasn't it good?
Oh, so good.
And right up the street from Matsumoto's is where I had the best cheeseburger I've ever had in my life, at a restaurant called Pizza Bob's. And there was nothing remarkable about this place. Other than that, I mean, the food was good. This cheeseburger, I don't know what it was. We had to go back a second time.
Yeah.
To get another, I had to have another, because I had to know if I was just a fluke or if this really was the best cheeseburger.
Pizza
secret-
Bob's pizza is very good as well, I will
The
say.
secret turtle.
It's probably, yeah, it's a turtle burger.
Endangered
Condensed
species.
milk.
Right.
The other location, I think, it would be interesting to a lot of people. We checked out last year. You guys checked it out this year, the Kualoa Ranch. Now, there's a lot of things you can do with the Kualoa Ranch, but I'm specifically talking about the movie tour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is a massive, this family owns this massive amount of land, and the ranch allows productions to film there. One of the pictures we're showing now, for those who are watching, if you've ever seen Lost, you have seen this shot, because we're just rewatching Lost now.
And they use it like
again.
a million times.
And I've seen this shot like 5 times already, and I'm only on like the middle of the first season.
I think most iconically in Lost, they use it as Hurley's golf course.
Hurley's golf course, yep. But Kualoa Ranch also is a place where Jurassic Park did filming. One of our captioned this photos from a few months ago was Dustin in one scene that was popular in Jurassic
In
Park.
this photo, if you were able to look through my point of view from this photo, you would see that same image you just saw a moment ago of the giant canyon, and this is where the Gallimimus dinosaurs are fleeing from the Tyrannosaurus
I love
Rex.
that he knows Gallimimus.
Right. Wow.
And what about you guys? You guys had a chance to do it this last trip. What did you think of?
Oh, amazing. It was just cool to see all of these different area. Like, well, it's an enclosed space, but there's so many different movies that have been made on this
Right.
that it was just breathtaking.
Yeah, if you just turn the camera like 20 degrees, it's like a whole different shot,
Right.
and so many different movies.
Well, I
have
think
done
that's an interesting word when you say breathtaking, because you look at some of those photos of those locations, and it is just absolutely breathtaking. I mean, these are epic mountains and greenery. And you've had films like Pearl Harbor was filmed there, Jurassic Park,
50 First Dates.
50
my
First
favorite.
Dates,
Godzilla.
Godzilla,
Mighty Joe Young.
Mighty Joe Young. There's a ton of films that have been made there, and you've seen these locations.
Yeah.
In
A lot of
films.
Hawaii Five-0, they film there too. We're often watching it, and we recognize so
Right.
many places.
Well, when we
from the
were
ranch.
in Waikiki, they were filming on the streets of Waikiki.
No, you can't say that, because every time I've gone, I drive around looking for them, and I can't
they
find
had-
them.
they had-
Dano?
I know.
Is that you?
They had a street blocked off with all their trucks, with their and all that stuff, and
They were doing a stunt.
They were doing stunt filming right on the beach.
One day I will. I even stayed at the Hilton Waikiki Village, because that's where they film a lot of their hotel shots. They weren't there either.
Another stop, I won't call this a must-do, but it's a nice to do as you're driving around the island.
I think if you're going, I think everybody should do it once.
Well, no, I haven't said what I'm talking about yet.
Okay.
What did you think I was talking about, Waikiki or Kualoa?
You go ahead. I'm looking at something over your shoulder.
Pictures mean nothing.
Dole Plantation.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. Ding, ding, ding.
Dole Plantation is a cute place to stop. And from what we understand, that the plantation part is going away. They're doing away with using this as one of their plantations. They're going to keep the tourist aspect of it. But for Disney fans, this is one of the places where you can grab a Dole Whip. If you're willing to wait online for 45 minutes, because was what the line was like when we were there.
It was that
crazy.
moment when you're in the grocery store and you get into one lane, checkout lane, and then the next one beside you starts moving, and then you switch, and you had to make that choice of which one to get in.
A lot of, again, some unique souvenirs, stuff you're not going to find other places on the island, and some very nice stuff. Some good coffee, some different types of food that you can bring home with you.
Handmade crafts.
A lot of
logo
handmade stuff.
Really cool stuff, I think.
And so, I mean, like I said, I wouldn't make this a destination in and of itself, but if you're driving up the North Shore and going through Haleiwa and coming around, you're going to pass it anyway. So it was a good place. It was a good place to stop.
Very surprised to hear it's not going to be a plantation anymore. There's so much land, and you see the plantings out there.
This is what we heard, that
Wow, that's
they're
amazing.
doing away with the plantation
What are they selling?
aspect of it.
I'm sure
And-
they're still farming up there, I would imagine.
Well, if they're doing away with the plantation, then I doubt
yeah.
it. But it's not that important.
It's not.
But these are just a few of the things. I wish, like I said, I could spend 2 hours talking about what there is to do on Oahu. My favorite thing to do, though, is I say get in the car
Right.
and go. And then one of the places we were just kind of driving by, the Crouching Lion is what it was called. It's a restaurant. And we were like, okay, we're hungry. This looks interesting. And it's one of those things where you pull and you go, okay, this could be either really, really good or really, really bad. And it turned out to be really, really good. And it's a family-owned restaurant, and the family was in there having dinner, the grandparents, the parents, the kids. One of them, I guess the mom, was doing the ice bucket challenge out back.
We heard screams.
And we heard screams and colorful language. Food was amazing and a great view. It's right on the ocean, so you have this great view. And right next door is a location called Fine Ass Chocolate and Candy. And just because of the name, I had to go in. And it actually has great coffee and great candy. And this is Fine Ass Salty Balls.
Salty balls are great. I like the dark salty balls.
These are milk chocolate salty balls.
Milky.
And cute place. But again, just, I wasn't looking this up on TripAdvisor. This was just, we kind of happened by it. And we saw the restaurant, and then they were telling us, oh, you should go check out the coffee shop next door. And we did, and we got T-shirts and coffee and chocolate. And Love the name.
Yeah.
Love the name. Just got to watch the emphasis when you're saying it. That's all. I'll let you figure that out. But that is like my favorite thing to do now on Oahu is just get in that car and drive. Plus, if you're interested in beach, if you're interested in doing beach stays or going to hang out on the beach, I don't know why anybody would go to Waikiki. First of all, the beaches are all free. It's all free. It's free to park unless there's no like regular beach parking and somebody else has opened a lot across the street and they're going to charge you $5. But generally speaking, the parking is free. Beaches are gorgeous, and other beaches around the island are not nearly as crowded.
My favorite is Kailua. John and I drive to Kailua. I had read when we first were going that Waikiki was very crowded and very touristy. But if you wanted the exact opposite of that, go to Kailua, where it's very laid back and the beaches are made of white sugar. It's beautiful. So we go there every trip. Something interesting about the island of Oahu is it has every climate zone on Earth except for the Arctic zone. There's no winter. Everything else, there's desert, there's tropical rainforest, there's temperate zones. So you can pretty much find everything. The drive from the Waikiki, Oahu side, Aulani side to the other side of the island is actually John's favorite drive. You drive through these majestic mountains on these soaring bridges that are up in the air, and I don't think you can drive any place in Hawaii without finding a rainbow.
Dustin almost had an emotional breakdown.
Yeah.
Going over that bridge into the tunnel where you have those amazing mountains
It was
around you.
incredible.
Well, it's because you're driving, but you also want to look up and look around, and it's just something that you would only see in a movie. You wouldn't see that in real life. It doesn't exist.
We found a tiny little noodle shop that we go to every time we're in Hawaii.
And again, it's what you do. We just drove around and you saw this place.
Right.
One of the things just real quick about Oahu is that there's such ethnic diversity there. That's why I think the food is so good. Is that you have so many people from so many different cultures that have taken the time to really settle there and make it their own.
All right, we're gonna move on from our discussion of Oahu and talk just a little bit about time of year, the best times to go to Hawaii before we start talking about the cruise. In terms of weather, it's pretty much always beautiful in Hawaii. You're always going to have rain here and there. That's just a fact of life. And normally the summer months aren't too bad because they're islands and they get nice breezes. But of course, when we were there was like this bizarre tropical thing going on, and it was as humid in Hawaii as it was in Orlando. But I was in Hawaii, so it was okay. The temperatures pretty much stay in the same range throughout the year. They range in the 80s as the high, 70s as the low. Obviously, there are some variations between winter and summer and fall, but generally speaking, you're in that range. November through March is what is considered the rainy season. But, I've been there in November, I've been there in May, I've been there in July.
We were there in February.
And you've been in February. Was it rainy? Was it very rainy when you were there?
It wasn't. It really wasn't. There was one day where it rained quite a bit all day out of our trip, but for the most part, it wasn't.
We dealt with more rain than I was expecting in July.
Yeah.
But I think that was also part of this bizarre... This was a few weeks before they had the hurricanes coming in. There was a storm coming in right after we left, and then a couple weeks later, they had two hurricanes hit back to back. So it was an unusual season this summer, I think. But being there in November, it was gorgeous. Being there in May, it was gorgeous weather-wise.
February was great. The waves were massive up in the North Shore. Really high surf season. Also, in February, we saw a lot of whales. We saw a lot of whales in February before they started to make their way down to go towards Alaska. Chris had done. He went down in a shark tank, and was
That's insane.
I know, but hey, I was up above. insurance guy on hold. But it was actually quite tame. But he went down in a shark tank and just at the surface, so that was kind of cool. But we saw whales right off of there. So each time I've been now, November, February, in the summer, there's something unique about that time. So it's hard to pick what was the best time to go. I don't know, because there was something cool each time.
Now, in doing some research about pricing, obviously hotels on Oahu are they're like hotels anywhere else. They're going to yield their prices based on their occupancy. And from what I've seen, this includes the cruise. August through October and November seems to be when you're going to find the best deals. Obviously, September kids go back to school, but December is. I mean, December, like the winter months are very expensive.
Well, that's not because Hawaii has winter weather. It's because the northern part of the country,
right, exactly.
the United States, has winter weather.
Exactly. So that's also, that's high season.
Yeah.
But I noticed that it seems like August through November, and you can. I strongly recommend. Airfare is going to be your second largest expense on this trip. But I was seeing Delta running in November. Delta's running like $800 round trip coach on direct flights out of Newark, for example. A lot of cities now a lot of airlines are offering direct flights to Honolulu, especially from the East Coast. Now, it's a 9.5-hour trip. So keep that in mind, but I would much rather do 9.5 hours in one shot than have to do the connection.
We ended up finding actually good deals to upgrade to first class even.
Oh, yeah.
So we had originally spent about $1,000 a ticket, and that was from Toronto connecting through Chicago with United. And shortly after, about maybe 4 or 5 weeks after, I noticed they went down to $700. So I called, and they wouldn't give me a refund, of course, or credit. So I kind of convinced them. They were offering a discounted upgrade to first class, so I got them to agree to do that one way. And then I watched, and on the way back, I was able to, for $150 each, I was able to upgrade us on the return flight to first class. Just the fact that my luggage is included
Right.
makes it worth $150.
Right.
So we ended up flying first class both directions for about $1,100 a ticket.
Every time I've flown out to Hawaii, I've done first class on Delta, and I've never paid more than about $2,000 for my ticket. Now, that may sound expensive, but when you consider that coach was $1,300.
That sound was Chris dropping somewhere in Canada right now.
Well, but, just, again, you're talking in terms of I realize not everybody's going to spend that money, but in terms of a 9-10 hour flight, being able to lay down.
I've done it in coach twice. And let me tell you, first class is better. They use Sundays. We got Sundays.
Yeah, exactly.
You mean I get to lay down and I get a Sunday?
And
that's like a fat girl's dream.
I've mentioned it. Amen, sister. I've mentioned it a few times. Probably the best resource you can use on the web to research flights and keep an eye on flights is kayak.com, Kayak.com. What I love about Kayak is that it does it gives you the advice as to whether to wait or buy based on what they're seeing as the trend, and it'll give you a confidence, like, okay, 79% confident you should buy this now because we're expecting the price to go up. You can sign up for email alerts that will tell you when these different routes change, so you can keep an eye on them. I know there's a lot of advice out there about, book on Tuesdays and do it after 5 o'clock and all this
use
other.
your left hand.
Right. And, generally speaking, most experts agree none of that is true. That it's just about being vigilant. And Kayak just makes that a little bit easier to follow that and kind of see. And it also compares most of the airlines that are out there. It doesn't have Southwest, doesn't have JetBlue, and some of the smaller regional airlines like Hawaiian Airlines, Alaska Airlines, things like that, I don't think Kayak looks at them. They look at the big carriers, your Delta, United, those guys. So great resource for checking your airfare and trying to get the best deal. But like with anything else, it's a balancing act.
If you're flying from the East Coast, my opinion, if you're flying from the East Coast and you don't want to pay for first class tickets, I suggest you break it up. you spend a night on the West Coast,
Right.
and then fly. If you've got a first class ticket, it's a little bit easier. But that flight from Atlanta to Hawaii in a coach seat, that's a tough flight.
It's a tough flight.
There's also an in between. There's that Economy Plus, which is what we had originally upgraded to. Ben's a little tall, and I was a little worried, that long on a flight. I was worried, him being that cooped up. We have some concerns around that. So we had gotten the Economy Plus, and that's just a little bit more leg room, a little bit more space, and it's not nearly the cost of a first class upgrade. So most airlines are offering something in between the two as well.
Right, exactly. So, all right, well, let's talk about the cruise. A couple years ago, my first visit to Hawaii, we were with Dreams Unlimited agents doing a FAM trip, a familiarization trip of Aulani, and we decided to check out Norwegian's Pride of America. Some things about Pride of America. It is the only large cruise ship that is flagged in the U.S. You'll notice that most cruise lines are flagged under the Bahamas, Panama, other countries. The reason they do that is because they get to avoid U.S. labor laws and some of the other laws and regulations.
Taxes are
are a big part of it too, and that's the main reason. In order to sail the Hawaiian Islands the way this cruise does, it must be flagged for the U.S. If it's not, if you're sailing in the U.S. and you're not flagged as an American ship, you must stop at a foreign port. So, for example, next year when Disney does their 2 Hawaiian sailings, they're both leaving out of Vancouver. If they were leaving out of Los Angeles, as they did previously, they would have to stop. They stopped in Mexico. They must stop at a foreign port if they're not flagged in the U.S. and they want to sail the Hawaiian Islands. So Norwegian gets around that by flagging it as a U.S. ship. And with that, there are some differences that people need to be aware of. Now, I was a little nervous about doing this cruise because if you look at it online, you see 2 basic things. People love it or people hate it. And there wasn't a lot of in between.
There's not a lot in between.
So I was a little concerned about, okay. But I did my research, and I really tried to make sure I went in with my expectations managed. And so some of the things that are different about the sailing. Number one, no duty-free anything. You're in the United States the entire time. So you are never free from paying, getting duty-free. That being said, the shops on the ship are open all the time. They don't have to close. The difference, though, is that if you're in port, they are charging sales tax, which in Hawaii is only about 4%, 4 to 5%, depending on where you are. If you are not in port, there is no sales tax charged. But the shops stay open most of the time. There is no casino on board this ship because gambling is illegal in Hawaii. And that includes bingo. While they do have bingo on the ship, there is not a cash prize for bingo. They just give prizes.
It's free to play. They give prizes.
Yep. It's free to play.
Yeah.
So...
How fascist.
One of the things I love to do on, when I go on a cruise is in the spa, I love to get, a shave and massage. They're not allowed to do that because in Hawaii, you have to have a barber's license in order to do the shave. Wow. So they're not allowed to offer it. You go on Royal Caribbean cruises, you can get Botox injections. Seriously.
And dental work.
They have scary guys with questionable medical degrees walking around in white shirts handing people Botox injections. Never see me do it. But they're obviously not allowed to do that. That's medically licensed in the United States, and you have to adhere to certain rules. One of the laws in Hawaii, they can't serve you, you cannot order another drink if you're not finished with the one that's sitting in front of you. That rule applies on the ship as well. They're not allowed, whatever the laws are in Hawaii, they have to follow them on the ship. So it does make it a little different.
The smoking policy was a little more restrictive, too, than typically on a cruise ship, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Although getting much more restrictive.
Yes.
Right now, you are still allowed, up until November, you are allowed to smoke on your balcony. But as of November, there is only one location on board the ship where you're allowed to smoke. It's on deck 13, at the very back of the ship. What was the name of that bar?
I can't remember the name of the bar, but it's like the adult pool area.
It's the adult pool area. It's the only place in the ship you're allowed to smoke as of November, which for me as a smoker, would make it difficult for me to go back. But
So if you are going to book that cruise and you're a smoker, we want to make sure we're choosing you a cabin in that area of the ship.
yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is not necessarily an inexpensive cruise. It's not as ridiculous as I've seen some other places, but for a family of 4 in an inside stateroom, you're looking about $3,800 total.
There's a couple of reasons for that, I think. I think one, you hit on it with being an American flagged ship. I think the rules for the crew and stuff are different. The hours that they can work, I am sure they have a larger wage expense than they do in.
Well, they have to pay. They have to pay minimum wage. Yep.
Also, with not having any gambling, things like gambling, they're
Offset the cost.
revenue producing for cruise companies.
Oh, yeah.
So that offsets your fare because they're kind of basing the fact that you're going to spend this much on board anyway. So we're going to give you a cheaper fare to get you on board because we know what you spend on board is going to make up what we need to make in revenue. You don't have that on this ship. You also don't have a lot of. I'm sure the bar
Just gonna say
expenses are
that.
not as high because this is a port-intensive cruise.
Right.
You're off the ship all day, every day.
This is one of the things that people need to keep in mind. The number one draw, the number one thing on this cruise are the ports.
Right.
Now, that's not to say this is not a beautiful ship. I was really impressed with how beautiful this ship was. Really well maintained. Obviously, Pride of America, its theme is America. And it goes right up to the line, maybe a little over the line of being a little cheesy. The John Adams coffee bar. Jefferson's Bistro. Everything's kind of themed around Americana.
Overly themed a little bit.
I wouldn't say overly themed. It's just, it's a lot of America. It's a salute to all nations, but mostly America.
Mostly America. Right.
And so but at the same time, it was also, once I kind of got past the cheesiness, it was really nice to see a cruise ship.
It was. But the neon and the.
Well, just not even that. Just something that kind of celebrates Americana. I kind of like that. I thought that was kind of cool. And it's, like I said, it's a beautifully done ship. But since it is all about the ports, there's not as much going on deck and things like that. When that ship is in port, you could fire a cannon on deck and not hit anybody. I don't recommend doing that, but you get the point. And also the staterooms. The staterooms are smaller than
They are smaller than your typical, for sure.
For example, inside staterooms are 132 square feet. Compare that to 168 square feet, depending on the ship on a Disney cruise. Ocean view staterooms 144 square feet. Balcony staterooms range between 178 and 233. Suites range from 356 all the way up to 1,400 square feet. And then Norwegian has their studios, which are available for solo travelers. These are 107 square feet. These are on deck 13. There's not a lot of them, but they have a common area where you can socialize and do what solo travelers do. I don't know who's taking who back to the room though. These rooms are like closets.
Sounds like a hostel.
It's kind of along those
like
lines.
that.
Is that what I like?
But you're not paying
Single
that
supplement then.
single supplement. So you're getting,
Your room basically has a single bed,
and a bathroom.
And I'm not even sure that the bathroom has a door. I've seen some pictures of some of the studios, and it seems kind of a unique setup. But that's it. And then you've got your
Well, if
common
you're there,
area.
who are you shutting the door from?
Yeah, if
Well,
you're
that's just
by
it.
yourself,
Exactly.
yeah.
Really. The rooms are very nice. They're clean. They're well appointed. They're not, they're not shabby. They're not run down. The beds were incredibly comfortable. They're just not as big.
Yeah.
And that was, that's one of the things I think that we saw a lot of complaints on. I think people weren't prepared for that. People are expecting, modern cruise ship, even though this is a relatively new ship. This ship was built in 2009. They were expecting, what you see on Royal, on Disney, and a few other ones, the larger staterooms. These are smaller because you're not in them as much. There's no sea days on this cruise. You're in port all the time. You start in Honolulu. You wake up your first morning at 8 o'clock in Maui. And you don't leave until the next day at 6 p.m. You overnight in Maui. I'm sorry, you want to say something?
Sorry, I didn't know if you were going to go into the whole ports discussion, but we do have a video that would kind of give you...
Why do I keep forgetting about the videos?
I don't know.
What is wrong with me? We have a video of the ship. Let's show that before we go any further.
That's the wrong...
That was the wrong video.
I apologize.
I don't feel so bad about screwing up. You screwed up worse.
You can keep going.
Well, no, do you have the video ready?
I'm sorry. I gotta go through this.
Where most ships are.
Everybody's mics are off.
Oh.
Go ahead.
Sorry. While we're actually still on the ship, I wanted to talk about the freestyle dining.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Opposed to the Disney ships where they have set times, you have multiple free options, and then you have the paid
Signature.
option. Thank you. Signature options. But you don't have set times, which is perfect if you're with a family.
No, yeah, we're on.
Yeah, we're on. Okay. When you're with a family, or if you just want to eat whenever.
Well, Norwegian was the first cruise line to offer freestyle dining. And all around the ship, there are monitors that show all the restaurants, the signature and the not, the regular restaurants, and what the capacity is. And if it's marked green, it's available, you can just go. You sit with whom you want, when you want. It's not typical dining. So it's just like going to a restaurant and I want a table. It'll be yellow to say there's going to be a wait if you want to eat here, and then red saying don't even bother, we're full. So you can always look and see what's available.
That was one of my favorite things on a Norwegian ship.
Yeah.
I was going to say I would cruise Norwegian again only because of the freestyle dining. I liked it that much.
Yeah,
it fits to the way we like to cruise. I don't want an appointment for dinner. I don't want to have to dress for dinner. I want to eat when I'm hungry.
I don't want to sit with strangers.
I don't want to sit with people I don't know and
Exactly.
make fake conversation. I don't want any of it. And this just fit with that.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. And, I wish I could say the food was as good.
Yeah.
Not necessarily that the food was bad. It just wasn't great. It was kind of mediocre.
And that's what I was saying to these guys before. I think I probably like the food more so than others did because I tend to err on the side of a little bit more mediocre and bland. I don't like a lot of variety and spices and.
You're Canadian.
So I know.
We understand.
So I enjoyed it. I thought it was okay. I mean, I can certainly see the differences.
It wasn't elk, so she was happy.
Or poutine.
I thought when we ate in the specialty restaurants that they kind of brought it more to the level of what I would compare maybe Disney's main dining room to.
I agree.
Didn't, they weren't specialty to the point where some of the stuff that we've eaten on Royal Caribbean or in Palo, for example.
But I was surprised because on my other Norwegian cruises, I always found the food very good.
Right.
And so I was a little surprised.
I think that's kind of the difference between this ship and some of, because I think this ship is still different than what Norwegian offers typically.
Do you think it's because they expect people to go ashore and eat?
I think so. I think there's that. I found that there was less crew working. Like I found at the buffet, for example, we ate at the buffet a couple times. There was less people around, and I also think sometimes they're somewhat limited to what they can get. They have a lot. Bringing in fresh produce and things is very expensive to the islands.
Right, it is.
And I think there's some of those limitations as well. So I think it's a number of things that kind of...
Well, I want to talk a little bit about the crew. One of the requirements when you are flagged U.S. is that you have to have between 75 and 80% of your crew needs to be U.S. citizens. So again, something unique about this sailing. And I really didn't encounter, with maybe one exception, I didn't encounter any rude crew members. But with Americans comes our attitude. And that was there. It is different, and I want to be cautious in how I describe this. Whereas on other ships, you have a lot of crew members from various countries, and they are supporting their families
Right.
doing this. When you are supporting your family doing this, you have a different attitude. These were a lot of kids that were either in between colleges or just out of college that were, hey, it's kind of cool. I'll go sail the islands for 9 months.
Right.
That being said, we came across some great crew members. If you were in a suite, which both Tracy and I were, if you were in a suite, the suites came with a butler. And my butler was better than Tracy's butler.
I think it was because Pete's suite was much bigger than mine. So I'm pretty sure the butler thought, well, different size suite, different size tip at the end of the week.
I don't know.
Can I ask real quick about tipping?
Yes.
Is it very typical of a regular cruise line tipping, or is it more?
Here's the weird thing with Norwegian. If you prepay your cruise, you prepay your tips ahead of time. There's nothing left in your room to put in an envelope.
There's no envelopes or nothing.
It just gets done.
And I had to go search for it because in research ahead of time, I knew that the butler as well as the concierge was not included in the tip pool. So I researched that ahead of time and tried to research how much to give them. And I had seen everything from $20 for a week to $20 a day. So it was all over the map. So I kind of went with the attitude where I had a number in mind. This was the number that I was going to give the butler, and this is the number I was going to give the concierge. Didn't really know what their differences in roles were, except it seemed to me that the concierge was above the butlers. So in my head is a little bit like the main dining room when you got the guy who comes to your table every day, and then you got the guy that shows up at the end of the week with his hand out for the envelope.
Yeah.
It's kind of that idea. But I kind of went with that number, and I thought if he's really great, maybe I'll up it. If I feel he's done a little bit extra for me this week, and if he kind of ignored me, then I'll lower it. I gave him the number that I went with. He was kind of mediocre.
What about stateroom attendant, stuff like that?
That was all included with the prepaid. Same thing. $12 per night per person is kind of typical across the board right now, and that was what our prepaids were as well.
And the butler handles everything.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say everything, I mean your laundry, your room service, your dining reservations, your shore excursions. There are no buttons on your phone for, room service or this or that. You call your butler and, you want to eat in your stateroom, you want to eat from one of the signature restaurants in your stateroom, bring it in. And he brings you a menu, you order, and it's quite fabulous. I have to be honest. It was.
And the butler does serve a number of staterooms. I've heard some people say he's just standing around waiting for you to need him. No. He services maybe, anywhere from, 5 to 10 different staterooms or suites. So, he's not just standing at the door waiting for you to ring a bell.
Right.
Yeah. I wanted to call mine Mr. Belvedere, but I didn't.
I called mine from Downton Abbey, Mr. Bates.
Oh, yeah.
His lordship's valet.
Yeah. But Pete's butler was way better than ours. He had his own private movie collection that he let Pete borrow from.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was the look on our face when he first offered it.
Kind of movies.
That's what I said.
That's what we said.
It's all butler stuff. All butler related
Butler
movies.
porn.
I wasn't going to go there. You had to go there, right?
Oh, God. Okay. So, I mean, overall, though, I found the crew on the ship to be very good. Like I said, there was that. It was different.
It was kind of like, to me, it was kind of like if you go to Fridays for dinner, the way you're in the dining room.
Very casual.
It was very casual. They were very friendly with you. They were very, kind of joking and things, just things that you don't typically see on a cruise line. And so it wasn't bad. It was just different.
Yeah, there was an edge to some of them. There was definitely an edge to some of them. But the only one that we came across that was rude was Happy Fun Guy in the Cadillac,
Oh my God.
the Cadillac Diner. It's really sad to watch Hope die. This guy apparently just gave up on life years ago, and is just going through the motions. The most miserable human being I've ever seen. Just, we go in to sit down. How many? 3. Grabs the menus, throws them down on the table, walks away. I'm like, okay, wow. It all ended a few years ago, didn't it? But that was the only one.
You named him Happy Fun Guy?
He was Happy Fun Guy, yeah. Officer Happy Fun Guy, because he was like...
Yeah, because he was in dress whites.
Yeah, he was in dress whites. He had 2 bars on his...
Yeah.
Like, okay, wow, okay.
He used to have 4.
But all those things being said, you look at the price of this cruise, And, you can say, wow, okay, this is a little expensive. But then think about flying to all these islands, staying in a hotel, having to pack up and unpack, the cost of the flight, the cost of the hotel, the transfers from the airport, the renting of the cars, all of that stuff. This is a discount. This is
This
a
is your
bargain.
hotel and your
That's
transportation.
right. And I think if you go into it thinking that, this is not a typical cruise. If you've cruised before, you're going to see differences. If you've never cruised before and this is your first cruise, it's not going to be indicative to what your future cruises are going to be. But
Well,
if this
another
is your
cruise is the-
hotel and your transportation, that's exactly what it is, and it does it. It does those two things well.
But when you take another cruise, the ship is often the destination.
Right.
Or at
That's
least they
exactly
make it
right.
part of the destination. This I
is
think
not.
is more just
Yeah, Hawaii is the destination.
Right.
Hawaii is the purpose of the cruise. Hawaii is the destination of the cruise. These islands are the star, not the ship.
All right, do we have a cruise video ready?
Yeah.
All right, why don't we show this video of the cruise ship?
yeah, surprised that you asked.
Sure.
All right.
All right, that's a look at Norwegian Cruise Line's Pride of America. Ben, you had something you wanted to add about dining. Is that what you said?
Oh no, I was just talking about the last.
Oh, okay.
Make something up, Ben, fast.
It was good.
So, overall, I think on a scale of 1 to 10, I would give 7.5 Pride of America, which, just because it's, where I'm taking points off for just because.
Yeah, just because it's not a typical cruise experience.
Yeah.
This is my mood.
Yeah.
For sure. One thing to mention too, it was a little bit different when we checked in at port. So there were no porters. Nobody was coming. Nobody was taking your luggage. You had to drop that off yourself.
Oh no, we got a porter.
We had to flag a guy down.
We had to go hunt him down.
Okay, because there was a lineup of people just dropping their luggage off to this room, and so we dropped our luggage off. Make sure you print your luggage tags at home before you go. But yeah, there were no porters to be seen. We had to just drop them off. So it was a little bit different. And also, when you get off, there's no customs.
Yeah, there's no customs experience
because you're in the
which was
U.S.
nice.
Yeah, it was a weird port experience.
Yeah, it was
to say
different
the
for
least.
sure.
We had that when we sailed into there.
The other thing is that when you're staying in the suites, someone comes down. There's a special area for you to check in, and someone comes down and escorts you onto the ship. And then you go up to the Cagney's Steakhouse where you can have lunch. And Cagney's Steakhouse for suite guests is open every day for breakfast
And lunch.
and lunch.
That's nice.
Only sweet guests.
Only suite guests. So they do a really good job in that concierge level. I think they do an excellent job. They're definitely. I think they do better than Royal Caribbean does.
I think so too.
When we talked about it, you had mentioned some of the other perks of being in a suite, something about soft drinks and
Oh yeah,
alcohol.
It depends on the level of suite. Pete and I were in different suite levels. So in his level of suite, there was some alcohol included. And I think you guys were able to swap that out for different, like soda or something else you did.
Well, they put beer. They put beer in instead of wine.
Instead of wine.
And
You had
for-
soda
and for me
included
for
and things like that.
sodas and stuff like
In
that.
our level of suite, we did not. So we were in a penthouse suite, and I think yours was an
we were in
the
an
owner's
yeah,
suite.
I had an owner's suite.
So there were some differences. We kind of ended up in ours by accident. We were booked in a veranda category, and I was watching to see if the price would drop. Even though they won't drop the price for you, they'll give you an onboard credit. So I was watching our reservations just to see, and all of a sudden the suite price dropped to this almost the same as what I paid for a balcony. So for $80, I was able to upgrade to that suite. So that's how I ended
He was
up
in the
having a
1%er
plumber.
suite, apparently.
Yeah, exactly.
He's in the true
Yeah.
1%er.
I just wanted to mention one thing about the cruise ship before we move on to like the islands and the ports and stuff. I think it might be important to note kind of like the demographics of the ship. It's very family friendly cruise.
Oh, yeah.
But there was also a lot of young couples on board. But it wasn't like the booze cruise. It wasn't like party cruise.
No, not at
central.
all.
But it was
The belly flop contest.
no. It was it was younger families. I felt like
It was it was a great clientele.
Right.
Nobody, it wasn't trashy. It wasn't crazy. It wasn't,
The ship was empty by 10 o'clock.
It wasn't old. It was just, kind of a nice cross section. Like you said, you had young couples, you had families, people in the 40s and 50s, a few older passengers. It was. It was
a really
awesome.
good cross section.
How about like kids Ben's age, young people Ben's age?
The problem with Ben's age now, Ben's at a really hard age
Right.
for cruising.
Anyway.
He's at 18, so he's at the kids clubs have ended, the teen clubs have ended for him. He's not old enough for, he's not 21, so he's not drinking or he's not in that crowd. So he's at that, the 18 to 21 year olds are
Those
kind of in
awkward years.
awkward years when it comes to
Go
cruising.
play basketball by
They did
yourself.
have some events though. Go ahead, Chris.
Mind you, there was each day there was like 18 plus meetups, or not. I don't want to say 18 plus. but, like,
Hookups.
Actually 18 to 21 or 18
Yeah,
yeah.
like people, like places where if you're 18 to 21, you could meet up. Find people your age that you could just hang out with for the cruise.
And how many kids, I keep saying kids, but how many people that age were?
I actually did not attend.
He was busy with the Butler's movies.
Very successful.
We're going to be talking about butler porn for a while, aren't we?
While the thing was muted, we were going all making up our own titles.
We were making up
wear
our
the
own
gloves?
titles. But all right, now as I said, the star of the show with this cruise is by far the Hawaiian Islands and the ports, and this itinerary takes you to Maui, to Hilo on the Big Island, Kona, also on the Big Island, and then to Kauai, where you overnight in Maui and you overnight in, Kauai. You overnight there. And before we have too much of a discussion about that, let's show a little video of our trip around the islands. Oh God. Oh. That.
I know.
I know. Just it kind of brings it all back.
Let's go back.
Let's go back now.
I don't think we got enough information. We should go back.
We have to go do this again. All right. So as I said, your first morning of the cruise, you wake up 8 a.m. You are in port in Maui, and you are in Maui until 6 p.m. the next night. And that was a first for me. I've never overnighted in port like that before. And what struck me first and foremost with it was how it affects how you approach going around these islands. You're not looking at your watch saying, what time do I have to be back on the ship?
Don't let the boat leave.
Right, yeah. Exactly. I mean, because you're always worried about that when you're in port. You got to be mindful of what the all aboard time is, because if they're going to leave without you. So when you're kind of going around and you don't have to worry about that, and the ship remains open for people to come and go. So the second day we were in Maui, the second morning was an excursion that we had booked that met on the pier at 3 a.m. And as we're coming off to get ready to go on this excursion, other people are just coming back on for partying. They were out hanging out.
What were you doing at 3 a.m.?
This was a trip to a dormant volcano called Aulani.All to watch the sunrise. So we get on at 3 a.m. This was the only excursion that we booked through the ship. Mm-hmm. Everything else, we just kind of rented a car and went on our own. But for this, we wanted to book the excursion. This is an 8-passenger luxury van that takes you, it's about an hour and a half, I think.
About an hour and a half.
To go to
up a harrowing mountain in the dark.
Up to the summit of Aulani.All, which is at 10,000 feet. And from there, you watch the sunrise. And in the video that we just showed, you saw a time lapse that Dustin had filmed of that sunrise, and it's one of the things that you will never forget seeing it. Once you've done it, it's something that will stay with you for the rest of your life. It is nothing like it. I just have no point of reference to describe how beautiful this was. Now, the tour company that Norwegian uses for this is called Temptation Tours, and they really did a very good job. I have to say, they did a very good job. Our driver was colorful.
He was colorful. He was...
and he... a little chatty, and that's not necessarily a good thing at 3 o'clock in the morning, especially when he starts espousing some of his politics.
He said something about he said something about Obama. He's sitting behind me.
Well, because, okay, first of all, I'm paying $200 a person for this, and I know not everybody agrees with my politics, and that's fine. But at 3:30 in the morning, if you're going to start spouting that nonsense, I'm sitting in the back of this thing, and I start screaming up at the front. I start screaming back at him.
Chris is sitting beside the driver. I'm behind, and I'm thinking, I think this is going to change.
Well, the thing is, I do agree with what you're saying. Is you are paying this person?
I don't need to hear I don't want to hear your politics.
I mean, that's.
And if you're going to,
but there was kind of the tone for the day, though. He didn't.
I don't even want to hear him if you agree with me. Shut up.
Exactly.
Right. He doesn't know. He didn't know boundaries.
Yeah, this guy did not.
He did not know boundaries.
Not great with the boundaries.
We're pretty sure that we pretty well figured he was on the spectrum for sure. Like he didn't know boundaries. He didn't know when not. He had no filter, but not. You could tell early on that there were some other issues going on. So we were probably a little bit more slack than we would have been otherwise. But
I mean, he was very knowledgeable and a lot of great information.
Friendly.
Although 3 o'clock in the morning, you're driving an hour and a half. You're thinking, okay, maybe I'll just catch a few more minutes of sleep. Oh no, he didn't shut the hell up.
He narrated the entire day.
It was stream of consciousness. Everything he looked at.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to throw a brick
and
up at the front.
And you could tell it was planned. Like at one point we got to a certain point on the road on the way back, and he turned on the what is it, over the rainbow
Somewhere Over the Rainbow.
Yeah.
The Hawaiian.
And you could just tell that this was the point in the tour where he always did that.
Always did that.
And then partway through, one of the other ladies with us asked a question about something that was
got
growing.
a little bitter.
And he answered her, but then he said, well, we were listening to that song. And that was the end for us.
Yeah. I was like, oh my
I couldn't
God.
hold it in anymore. I'm cracking up in the back of the van. I can't.
It was just this kind of stuff all day. No, it was funny.
So you go up to this 10,000-foot summit, and and he knows exactly where to put you because it gets real crowded, and he gets up there before everybody else. So we had these great spots to watch the sunrise, and then afterwards we get back in the van. He's got hot chocolate and coffee in the back of the van for everybody, which I thought was a really nice touch, and it was actually decent coffee. And then you go down to a breakfast, and I don't remember the name of
The Kula Lodge.
The Kula Lodge. And it was a very, very good
really
breakfast.
good.
But there is something I do want to warn people if you do this. There are stores there, and they're wonderful stores. They have a lot of great stuff. They are a complete ripoff, as I found out. I bought some items that they were charging $50 and $60 for, and when I went and looked for the company online, I'm embarrassed to say it, I spent $55 on a jar of peanut butter. Okay?
He was telling us to try this peanut butter.
It was amazing.
And he
It
was like,
was
this
this-
is amazing peanut butter. And Chris is looking at me, you are not spending $55
It was
for a jar of peanut butter."
coconut. It was coconut peanut butter, and it was delicious. And I'm a peanut butter freak. I eat peanut butter all the time. I love peanut butter. So $55. I'm like, all right, whatever. I actually didn't realize it was $55 until after I bought it.
We bought peanut butter on the north shore of Oahu, coconut peanut butter. Valerie Alves bought coconut peanut butter.
Yeah, it's sold on the islands.
I don't think she paid $55.
No, because if you go to the company's website, it's $25. So
Even that's ridiculous.
no,
Unless it's the Costco size of peanut. I'm sorry, the Costco size of peanut butter.
No,
you better not be
whatever.
$25.
Irrespective of whether it's worth it or not, the point is that
It was a tourist trap.
It was a complete tourist trap, and I'm pretty sure he was getting a kickback because he was very insistent. We went in there.
I'll be honest with you. That was true of pretty much every
That is
place we
typical of
stopped and
just about
got a
every tour.
driver and stuff. They have these places where they stop, where they're friends with them, and they get some kind of kickback. I think if you know that in advance, you're informed.
Yeah, exactly. But the whole experience, the whole trip, that whole excursion was excellent, and I would absolutely do it again. It
was.
Be aware of elevation sickness.
Yeah, that's one of the things.
One of the ladies with us got sick. But just because you're driving, you're so high up and it's in the dark.
And you're also driving a very curvy road. So
Right.
what happens is people will eat before they get off the ship, and then they're sick. They get sick. So
Yeah.
don't eat before you do
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, there was a combination of elevation and motion sickness. I
Yeah,
think.
and we rent a car everywhere. That's what we like to do. But in this case, we decided not to, just because that drive we had heard about it and it was still dark. I'm really glad we didn't try to do it on our own.
Right.
Like I'm glad we went with the excursion. But watch for that for sure. But just a couple things. We had decided ahead that we talked to Ben about it, and he wasn't going to join us because a combination of being up that early in the morning. And then the drive, and then we still had to stand for probably a good hour or
Yeah.
more waiting for the sunrise to happen.
So
There
worth
was
it.
no-
Like in a spot
No
where there
place
was
to Ben
people.
wasn't
There was
gonna do
no
it.
feasible way I could
No.
do
You were standing like
There's no
shoulder
recliners.
No, there no.
shoulder
I
to
think
shoulder.
I think Kevin's microphone is either off or down very low, because when he's talking, I'm not really hearing him.
But there was there was people all around us. It just would not have been a good environment for Ben.
It would not be a
So-
good environment for Kevin
Quick
either.
question: were there restrooms?
Yes,
There was
Okay.
there
Yes,
were
there were
restaurants.
restaurants
At the top of the crater.
and a little gift shop. Little gift shop was up there. It's a national park, as
Yep.
is most everything that you will hit in places like this. They're all U.S. national parks, which is a good thing because it means they're either free or there's a very small admission charge to get up there. You can drive up to Haleakala on your own and have this experience, and it's free of charge. There's no admission to get up top of the mountain. But this was absolutely a highlight, and that's kind of what I'm going to focus on with these islands, I think, because of the time. Just kind of bounce around and talk about highlights. Overnight on Maui, awesome. Haleakala, got to do it.
I wanted to mention the fish tacos on Maui in the Whalers Village.
That restaurant we
yeah.
went to at lunch.
Layla's on the beach, or Leilani?
We went. It was in the
Leilani's.
Whalers
Leilani's.
Village.
Leilani's on
We
the
went. We
beach.
drove there the first day. It was really good.
Best fish tacos I've had.
It was very, very good food, and it was on the beach in Maui. And the Whalers Village is a little shopping area. It was really nice.
We've been there. Yeah.
It's really some cute little places and some, it's a Coach store, and a Louis Vuitton.
And the wood store, what's that called?
Louis Vuitton.
Oh, and that was, it's on I can't think of the name of it. What was the name of the wood store?
Michael and somebody, or
No,
Yeah,
I can't remember the name.
I don't know.
But
Yeah.
got this beautiful Koa wood case for my iPad. It was gorgeous. So, moving over to our next port the next day was over on the Big Island, which is the island of Hawaii, and it was the port of Hilo. And we started off going to, it was Volcanoes National Mountain or
Volcano National Park. Yep.
And it was kind of rainy and drizzly, and
Wasn't a great day to be in Hilo. Hilo's often rainy. So when you're going to Hilo, it's in a rainy part of the island. It's raining almost all the time. We had gone in February. We flew over just for the day, and we had hired a private tour guide. So we were just kind of replicating the things that we had done with that private tour guide as we were playing tour guide with Pete and Dustin.
And oh look, the crater. It's rain. It's nature. It's raining. I've now lost interest. So Tracy and Chris we're gonna go do the lava tube. Is there lava still in it? I mean, what happens here?
I think
It's
a
a
lava
slide.
tube is cool.
And so they had done it in February when they were there, and so I'm like, okay. So we go to the lava tube.
We
And it's
did
a
have to
stinking-
hike through the rainforest first to
we
get
had
to the lava
there was
tube.
like an uphill. It was uphill both ways.
We had a hike to the closer parking lot, and then we had to hike to the.
Yeah, really. We parked we had a hike to a better parking lot than the one we had parked in, and then hiked to the lava tube.
Oh, look, there's parking right outside the lava tube.
Exactly. And
exactly what happened.
And it's raining. And so, I'm, like, oh, Lord in heaven. I'm trying to be polite because they're so, these two were so excited about doing it. And I'm like, okay, don't be a diva. And so we get to the lava tube, and it's a friggin' tunnel. It's a tunnel.
It was
A
made
wet
from
tunnel.
lava. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, but the lava ain't there anymore. If I
wasn't
was
as
seeing
well
lava
themed.
flowing through it, that would be kind of cool.
Did you say it wasn't well themed?
No, Tom Sawyer's Island is better.
The queue wasn't very well themed.
And it's raining, so there's lots of puddles, and it's like leaking, and
I really wanted to call some of those puddles. I'm pretty sure there's some lakes down there that you had to walk through to get out.
they were.
It's awful.
It was awful.
And Chris wasn't with us. He went back to get the car to bring it to
Smart
the
man.
closest.
And he was smart. No, what really happened was Chris is like, I'm not doing this crap again, and he bolted. That's what happens. He was a smart man. And
Do you have pictures of the lava tube?
Unfortunately, no, they were in the video, though.
they were in the video, but yeah, my pictures didn't come out too well.
And Ben was angry. He didn't take any pictures. Ben was so
I
angry
just
at
kind
me.
of rushed out. I'm not happy to admit it, but I was pretty close to kind of a meltdown.
Was
I
it
guess.
claustrophobic in there?
It was closed in. It was wet. A lot of the time, I actually had to you had to walk through.
Hey, but that's not an autism thing, because I was ready to melt down in there too. So
I was very proud of you both. Neither one of you melted down.
all I knew, because what you kept telling me is we were going to Big Island Candy Company, and that there was a coffee place that we could stop. And I'm like, okay, apparently the lava tube is the price I have to pay for coffee and candy.
I have a picture of that scene in Little Shop of Horrors where they just send the Pete candy bar.
So
Sorry, you did that for me.
from the
I'm not going on the lava tube. I just want you to know.
from the lava tube, we went to the Hilo Coffee Mill, which is not a coffee farm or a plantation. This is actually a roaster. So they get their beans from other places, they roast it, and they brand it. And actually, the coffee was quite good. The coffee that I had there, I wasn't impressed with, but when I bought a few pounds of it, brought it home. When I did it in my grinder and made it the way I like it, it was very, very good, and very reasonably priced in comparison to a lot of the other coffees that you'll find in Hawaii. But so we're hanging out, and they have you can get little wraps and sandwiches and things like that. And then Dustin and I decided to go have a cigarette. And to have a cigarette, because to Hawaii, you have to walk 35 miles away from the nearest door. So we have to walk down this path through a field, down by a farm, and there are chickens everywhere. Chickens. And these chickens apparently are very interested in us. And as we're standing there having a cigarette, these things are getting closer and close. And look, I know they thought I was going to feed them. I wasn't. I was going to feed on them, but I wasn't going to feed them. And I was just like, okay, nature is attacking me again, and I don't want to be close to this. This is uncomfortable, because they were just like coming like really close. And I'm like, what is, and there was a lot of them. And so I started filming on my iPhone. And I refer to these as the killer chickens of Hilo. And as I said to Dustin, okay, let's put our cigarettes out and get out of here, because this is really getting awkward. And as we were walking up the path, these things start chasing us. These things start literally running up the path after us. I'm
You
like,
had a Tippi Hedren moment?
It was. And like, you see them coming over the hill at us. I posted it on Facebook. It's on the DIS Unplugged Facebook page. And I was just like, this is bizarre. I'm like, okay, what?
And at this point, I'm convinced. I'm just fired now.
Get me out of Hilo.
I'm not working.
Get me out of Hilo. But from there, she redeemed herself. With our stop at the Big Island Candy Company. Oh my Lord! Somebody hand me a box of something. There we go.
We've been eating these all afternoon.
These are the milk chocolate macadamia nuts. There are also, this is a dark chocolate macadamia nut. Then there are the brilliant chocolate-covered red velvet brownies.
Don't open the box.
This is what's left of the brownies. They are empty. And they had everything. And stuff is really, really, really good. And it's this big, they literally bus people into this place. There were busloads of tourists. And I bought everything. I bought everything.
Everything.
One of everything.
And, no, two,
Or some
at least.
two.
And
Which one of these boxes was $55?
No, I was to tell you, I thought everything was very reasonably priced.
It's direct from the manufacturer.
I
They make it
bought
right there.
I bought a bunch of stuff, and I only spent about $300. Because I brought a lot back as gifts, gave to people, kept some, ate some. But the highlight of Hilo for me was the Big Island Candy Company. Now, did we go into some five and dime store, Hilo Hatties or something like that?
We did
Hilo
go to Hilo
Hatties.
Hatties there,
Well,
didn't we?
that's famous, so that's all.
Yeah,
over
Hilo's,
there.
Hilo
Yeah, you
Hatties
got some
everywhere.
coffee there, didn't
I
you?
got some coffee there. The stuff that's rivaling Kona right now, I don't know how it's pronounced. It's spelled Ka''U, Ka''U, something. Yeah, that's how it's pronounced. And apparently
like
this
Star
is like,
Trek.
they were selling it there, and it's actually delicious coffee. It's really, really, really good coffee. But from Hilo, we headed over to the other side of the Big Island, Kona, this was the bucket list one for me. Being a big coffee guy, coffee drinker, one of my bucket list items was going to visit a Kona farm. And I happened to cross a small, privately owned Kona farm in the place where people go to die on Kona. And it was... it was an awesome experience. It really was. It was a wonderful experience.
Was it a wonderful experience for you, Ben?
Yeah, it was until the next few days. Bring either long sleeve shirts and pants or bug spray. Or
She gave us bug spray, but you chose not to apply it thoroughly.
All right.
You almost went to anaphylaxis.
So put the bug spray on.
But before we get to the bug spray, this is a privately owned farm. It's a couple who've been doing it for about 30 years. They're from California. This is an organic farm. This is cool. We hired a car and driver. And what was our driver's name again? Do you remember?
I have no clue, but I think it was awesome.
He was awesome, and he was also about 400 pounds. He was this big Hawaiian guy. And he had to call this woman to get directions, and apparently she was a little rude with him on the phone. And he hung up the phone, looked at me, and goes, "She's crazy. Are you sure you know where you're going?" And he was so concerned about it when we got there, because it's these people's house, basically. And he was so concerned about it, he's like, "I'm coming in with you." Because we weren't sure. This was either going to be absolutely brilliant or we were going to end up as Soylent Green. It was not going to be anywhere in between. And it ended up being amazing.
Chicken feed.
Her name was Una Greenaway, and she took us around her farm. and she showed us how everything, the Kona plants or whatever they were that these beans grow on, bushes, trees, had been there for over 100 years. And everything she makes is all what is picked on her farm. That's considered estate coffee. If it's all coming from the same farm, it's estate coffee. And they roast it and grind it themselves. They produce about 2,000 pounds a year of actual finished product. That's from 12,000 pounds of beans. And they also do a lot of fruit and macadamia nuts and things like that. And she kind of shows you and gives you samples as you're going around.
Oh, I was gonna mention the samples. Like she'd be like, "Oh, hey, that's pretty ripe." Brings it down, peels it, then gives us some. And it was absolutely fantastic to be able to taste, not only like see where she's growing them, but to actually like taste these fruits.
Right. And before the tour starts, she tells everybody, here's some bug spray. You need to put it on. The mosquitoes are going to get you. So we all put it on, some better than others. And
he was bit from his ankles partway up his leg. So he decided he was too tired, lazy, unaware, I don't know, to bend down that far. So it stopped like mid-calf.
And he was eaten alive.
These aren't normal mosquitoes. They
we're
feed them
talking
steroids or something. I don't know.
Jurassic mosquitoes.
No, it's organic.
You should have saw the bites on him.
Oh, it was bad.
Like, there was a point where I kind of thought, and he had sent pictures home to his dad and his stepmom of the bites. So I've got them messaging me saying, I think he needs to see a doctor or something. No, he was just with Uncle Pete.
Well, I'm not slathering him up with insecticide. After the tour is over, she invites us into her house, onto her lanai with this amazing view, and serves us coffee and samples of the chocolates and the jams. And of course, you can buy the stuff there, which we did. $35 a pound for the Kona, which for this grade of Kona and estate Kona at that, in the States, you're going to pay $50 to $60 a pound for it. So you definitely are getting it at a better price. And she does sell it online. We'll have a link to it in the show notes page. We have links to everything that we're talking about in the show notes page. This is going to be the longest show notes page we've ever had. It's also the longest segment we've ever done now. But it was just too much to... Yeah, we couldn't,
You couldn't condense it. We're already condensing it.
Yeah, we're skipping through things. So for me, that was like I said, that was that bucket list moment, being able to go do this Kona farm. And what a lot of people do, because Hilo is on one side of the Big Island, Kona is on the other, you have to let the ship know you're doing this. But people will just get off in Hilo and say, we'll meet you back in Kona. And they bike across the island, or they stay somewhere overnight. You need to let the ship know you're doing that. Because there's things you have to sign and things you have to do. If you just decide to do that on your own, you're in trouble. But you could have overnighted like that there as well if you had chosen to. But from there we go to Kauai, and the least populated of the Hawaiian Islands, from what I was told. And what was the name of the town? Kapa'a?
Kapa'a.
And this is the other thing, is because these are not common cruise ports. They're not common cruise ports. So it's not liquor store, jewelry store, T-shirt shop. These are, they're touristy, but there's lots of different things.
They're also usually not walking distance from the ship.
Exactly. Kapa'a was not. But it was this great little downtown area, very kind of secluded and little rundown, little weathered, but some amazing stores. And that's where we found the supermarket that was named for me. It was called He-Fat.
He-Fat Marketplace.
The He-Fat Marketplace. This is also where I found the peanut butter, the coconut peanut butter. There it was $35. So that's when I started thinking, but that wasn't where we started. Where did we start in?
Well, we went to we took a drive on our way to the Waimea Canyon, is I believe how we started, correct, Tracy?
Yeah, that's right.
And we just stopped at a couple overlooks along the way, but ended up at the top of the Waimea Canyon, which is, they call it the Grand Canyon of Hawaii, or of
the South Pacific.
It's the Grand Canyon.
Amazing
incredible
views. And what do we do after that? I guess I forgot. I don't have my notes.
I
think we went into Kapa'a after that.
Is that where we went to? We went to
Oh, we
the
went to the top
ISO
of the
ISO
mountain,
needle.
What,
Is that where we
that
saw
was
the-
Maui.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to talk about the restaurant too, on top of the mountain, where the Maya Canyon was.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about the restaurant. Go ahead. When we went up to Waimea Canyon, remember we stopped at that restaurant?
Oh, with the chickens outside?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
The lodge thing.
And it's not just a restaurant; it's a hotel as well. But we only ate at the restaurant, and I thought the funniest part of it was, oh hey, can I get this drink? Yeah, it's over there.
Yeah, it's like, it was pretty much getting
Can I have a
yourself.
coffee? Yeah, it's over there.
Yeah.
It was like if you had a waiter at a 7-Eleven.
Yeah, effectively. And yeah, that was an experience. That was an experience.
And I think after that, we just drove down around to go to the other side, and that's when we happened upon this little town as we were.
Yeah.
And I think I found the best souvenirs of the trip for me in Kapa'a. I
Yeah.
mean, just there's this little hidden gallery in the back that had just all this handmade stuff. Like I got these little lamps, these little night lamps, and I got them on the bar inside, made out of coconut, and all handcrafted, beautiful, absolutely beautiful, and stuff like that. And that was one of the things I loved about sailing the islands in Hawaii, was that you could easily find really unique gifts and souvenirs. Not, yeah, I mean, certainly there's the mass-produced stuff, but you can spot it a mile away. There was stuff that you just didn't find or see anywhere else. And really enjoyed, again, overnighting in Kauai, so you're not, you don't feel that pressure to get back on the ship. You're able to stop and have dinner. We didn't get back to the ship till like 7 o'clock.
Yeah, something like 7 or 8 o'clock that night.
Yeah. And then the next day we just kind of hung out on the ship, I think.
Yeah.
But we disembarked around 5 o'clock, and I saw you saw it in the video that we just played at the very end, the Nepali cliffs, the Nepali coastline. I liken it to sailing the Inside Passage to Alaska,
Yeah.
that same kind of epic beauty. And the captain gets the ship very close to these cliffs, to these mountains. And because at one point I'm like, okay, when is he going to turn? Because he's like making a beeline right for the shore. And I'm like, at some point, we're going to hit something we shouldn't hit. Start having like flashes of Costa Concordia. And he took his sweet time going past these. It was an hour of going down past these, watching as the sun starts to set, the light's hitting it at different angles. So these mountains, the colors are changing, the features are changing. Absolutely breathtaking. Breathtaking.
The great thing about this is that you can only see it by sea or by air. This isn't somewhere where you could drive to.
But you also, you could see as we were sailing, there were small ships, like small catamarans and small sailboats that were rented out or done for excursions where you could take, and they could get even closer. I would have loved, if I ever go back, I have to do that. I have to do that kind of excursion where you can just kind of go right down.
Was that offered as an excursion from the ship?
It wasn't because we were already sailing.
No.
So, I mean, maybe you could have done it earlier in
could
the
have done it,
day,
or you could have
but I'm
done
not
it-
sure timing would have allowed.
Well, you
though.
could have done it the day before.
Right, you could have done it the day before, maybe. Yeah.
But it was absolutely phenomenal. And at that point, that's the last day of the cruise. The next morning,
It was just the perfect ending. Because I
was.
think we left port somewhere around 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and we made our way that way and just kind of had that sail. It was that Inside Passage idea. It was just the perfect end to a great cruise.
and the
that
next
way.
morning you wake up in Honolulu.
You're back in Honolulu.
And at that point is when we went back to Aulani. But once you're done sailing those islands and having that experience and spending that time, anything about the ship just kind of melts away.
Right.
Good and bad. It's
Right.
it really is a mode of transportation, and a very nice mode of transportation, and comfortable and clean and well kept and well staffed. But it's a mode of transportation. And I think the problem that people have had is they expect the ship to be more of a destination, and it's not.
Just before you finish, can I say a couple of things about the car rental that are unique here?
Oh yeah, please.
We had decided ahead of time that we were going to rent a car. When we cruise, we very rarely do excursions. We like to get off, walk around, discover on our own. I'm not into the organized excursion thing. But here we had rented cars everywhere because I, in some research, had learned that basically you're coming into shipping yards.
Yeah.
So there really isn't anything around port where you're just going to walk to and see.
Yeah.
So we had booked cars for each of the islands that we were going to ahead of time. And then when we got there, we actually upgraded because then Pete and Dustin were joining us. But the shuttles will come right to the cruise terminals to pick you up. So the shuttle would come, they would take you. In every case, the car rental agency we went to was at the airport, but there was nothing longer than a 10 or 15-minute drive. So it's not far at all. But before we get on that shuttle, they would say, do you have a reservation? Don't show up on these islands without a reservation because they're not even going to take you on the shuttle if you don't have a reservation. So, and when we would get there to get the car, in a lot of cases, we were trying to upgrade. In a lot of cases, there were no cars. On the one island, they actually said, well, I have a minivan, but it's booked today. But they probably won't be here till later. And you're Emerald Club members. Okay, you can have it. So they let us take it. But the car lots were quite empty. Wow. So it's very common in the islands to fly over for the day. Rental cars are very popular. So you don't want to go to these islands without an advanced reservation. But those, and also we went to get the car and then would come back for everybody. There was a couple ports where that was very difficult to do. They didn't want to let us back in because they're shipping yards. So we actually, if you are going with your family, you may want to just bring everybody with you when you go on the shuttle.
A couple of quick questions. I know we're running really long. What was the ship like as far as like shows and entertainment? Was there any of that on there?
We caught a couple of the shows. Think about, the cheesy cruise line entertainment and bring it down a couple notches. And that's what it was. They did bring They did bring a guest on board. I don't remember. I think he was a comedian, but he wasn't very funny.
He was supposed to be comedian.
Yeah.
Which one?
I don't remember.
Okay.
But in general, we try to pop in and just see. There's not great entertainment on board. We really found when the ship wasn't, when you weren't in port, there wasn't a lot going on that kept our interest.
And I apologize, one more thing. When you were on that one day where you were in port and you did a day on the ship, was there anything to do, or did you just hang out?
I just hung out but I don't do a lot of things on the ship.
Right.
I'm
Were
happy
restaurants open?
Restaurants and stuff are open. Sure.
The only thing is, how you get your daily planner, and there was trivia going on in different places. There was where was the bar we went where they were playing darts? I don't remember the name of
The saloon.
Wild West. Yeah.
We liked hanging out in there. They could throw some darts, and there was so there were certainly places to be. There weren't just a lot of organized activities.
Gotcha.
Right.
I'm sorry, Ben. You were.
Just back to the first question. We did end up seeing like a magician.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, I don't like bringing down people like that.
You're Canadian.
Like this, but he was actually really bad.
And he did an escape routine in the upper deck pool.
Did he actually escape?
I didn't watch it.
No, he was trapped.
No, he died.
I mean, we were questioning it after the show if he was going to make it.
He's so bad.
So I mean, the entertainment was, and I found though, the ship was dead in the evenings. Well, even when we would sail away.
Because you're exhausted from.
Well, that's just what it was. And overnighting in Maui, there were some people who stayed in Maui overnight. There was people who decided to eat, and enjoy a restaurant in Maui that night. So it was just a very different feel.
The reason why we ask is we are doing it. We took your advice, and we're going to do it February 14th to the 21st. We're going to go to Aulani first for a week, and then we're taking the February 14th cruise.
And that's for John's 50th birthday.
I was just going to say, this is an invitation. If you'd like to join us, this is John's 50th birthday party. So we already have some folks sailing with us. There is nothing
Really, it's your 50th birthday?
It is.
You haven't turned 50 already?
Damn.
She really is a poutine.
So, honestly, I could go on and on about this trip, but time is, this is the longest we've ever gone, and I'm about to fall over and die. This was an amazing journey and experience on every level. It was incredible. Whether it was our staying at Turtle Bay, which is an amazing resort in its own right, that I could recommend wholeheartedly. Our experiences at Aulani, our experiences on Norwegian's Pride of America, our experiences in the islands. It was just an amazing, amazing trip. We have a full blog going up. We've got photo galleries that'll be going up on our Facebook page. We've got the videos we've been playing in this that'll be going up on YouTube all over the course of the next day. So stay tuned for that. Links to everything we talked about today in the show notes. If you're interested in checking out Aulani or checking out Norwegian, just get in touch with Miss Tracy over here.
If you want to go on John's birthday cruise, let me know.
We're going to have a special forum put up so you can get a quote from Tracy so you don't have to just email her. We'll have that in the show notes page as well, how to get to that quote form.
Exactly. So, all right, that is going to do it for this marathon episode of the DIS Unplugged. We
You're
hope
not
you
lying, right? This is really it? We're not going someplace
We're
else
done.
and coming back?
We're done. That's going to do it for this episode. We hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back with you again next week with another edition of the DIS Unplugged. Thanks for being with us, everyone. And remember, stay out of the damn lakes.